Hello, I'm Michael Gawk, and you're listening to the Internet Advertising Podcast. In this episode, I'd like to tell you about choosing keywords for search campaigns. I'll be talking about Google Ads, but the same principle applies in different search engines when you're placing ads. For example, Bing ads. So I'll tell you how to find those keywords, how to group them for them to perform better, and later how to optimize. The first step is finding keywords. There are a lot of ways you can do that. Let's start with the most obvious way, looking at your website. Visit your website, try reading it, looking at the menu items, looking at the content. If you look at your website long enough, you get caught up in some keywords that you use to describe certain pages or certain products, categories, and you might forget what other people use to describe those same things. You just get blind to all the content that's on your page because you just think of a certain menu item that you see all the time every time you click to see a certain category, and you might even not read the content that's there. So take a moment to read through it. I'm sure when you were designing your website, you thought of those keywords that people might use. Read through them again, make a list of what people might search for to find your site, what words you're using on your website, and that would be a good start to build your keyword list. The second step would be going to Google and searching for products on your page, for example, or products that you want to advertise. See what people are using in ads to describe those products. See what other search results have in their titles, in their descriptions. You might stumble upon a word that you hadn't thought of before that describes your product that might be used by people searching for you. Related to this is looking at the suggestions Google makes. So if you start typing in a keyword, you know that Google suggests some search results. For example, you might type in loan. It'll show loans online, loans quickly, loans with bad credit, different longer keywords with that main keyword that you typed in them. You can take some of those keywords and write them down too. Of course, if you advertise, you can advertise very broadly. Just put in the first word and your ads will show up theoretically for all the variations. But the truth is, these variations might perform very differently. So it's good to have all of them added into your account, into your ads, so you know which one performs better or worse. You can wait for them to show up automatically and see reports. I'll talk about that later. But if there are some words you can think of right away, then enter them right away. And you'll see that, for example, blue sneakers works great and you have a lot of click-through rates, and red sneakers performs a lot worse. Sometimes the results are surprising. There's no logic to them, and it doesn't really make sense to think of theories why something is. It just is. So write in a lot of variations, within reason, of course. You don't want thousands and thousands of keywords that each one will get one impression a month. But start with something with a couple of dozen or 100 keywords in a certain ad group, and you'll see which versions perform better, which might be cheaper, or which might be more expensive but convert a lot better. So the Google search suggestions is one of those tools that will help you quickly find variations of those keywords. Something else that comes very in handy is searches related to. So if on a desktop or a laptop, this doesn't always show up on mobile searches. If in Google you type in a keyword, then scroll down to the bottom of the search results, you see searches related to that certain keyword you searched for. This is something better than Google search suggestions in the search box because you have different versions of the keyword, but you also have synonyms. So it's easy to find keywords that you might not have thought of that describe that same product or service you're advertising. You can, of course, click through further, And from one keyword, you go to another, and that other shows different suggestions. And you can build an interesting list of related keywords that might apply to your website. The next step is using the tools Google gives you. So when you're logged into your AdWords account, Google Ads account, you can click on the tools and choose Keyword Planner. Then you can select to find new keywords. You enter some keywords that you can think of, and Google suggests a lot more. It tells you keywords that it thinks are related to that search. They can be longer versions, so the keyword you entered plus some modifiers, or some other extra words, or it can be totally different words that have to do with this keyword. So, for example, if you enter sneakers, you might have sneakers shop, but you also might have Air Jordans, for example, which doesn't actually contain the keyword you entered, but is very relevant to the search. It also shows you average monthly searches, whether the competition is high, medium, low, what the top page bid is, more or less, to top of page bid to show up. So you can get an idea of how much you'll have to bid to show up near the top of the search results. It's actually a range, low range, high range, so you can see more or less how much you're willing to pay. Sometimes that range is pretty high, and usually with tools like this, you're going to have to try it out anyway. But at least you can see if it's 10 cents or if it's $10. And you get a range like that. So to sum up, if you want to find those keywords, you start with your site, you start thinking about your customers, you look at the competition on Google, you look at Google suggestions when you're typing in something in a search box, you look at the related searches, and then you can use the keyword tool to find even more keywords that might be relevant to you. If this is your first campaign, don't get too caught up in finding the keywords. You don't want to spend a week thinking of all the keywords, because it's better to get started and optimize later. So just start with some basic keywords that you might want to use. Find some, spend an hour or two finding them, and then you can get to work creating your ads and just see how they perform. So once you have the keywords, you have to group them into ad groups, and that's what they're called in Google. Now, why is that? Because you want ads that are related to the keywords. You don't want all your keywords in one ad group with one set of ads, because you might have, let's stick with the clothing store, you might have sneakers and you might have jeans. If you put those together in one ad group, you'll have ads that are either very generic. They'll just say clothing store, we have jeans, sneakers. People might not click on those ads as well as if they see an ad exactly tailored to what they're looking for. Plus, if you have a lot of things, there's no way you can mention them all in that ad. So there's a big chance somebody will be searching for a keyword and they'll see an ad that doesn't even mention the keyword they were looking for, and they'll just ignore that and click on a competing ad. Or even worse, they might see an ad that is something totally different that they were looking for. It's not even a generic ad, but it's a totally different service that they were looking for that you also offer, and that you lumped into this one ad group. So you want to have keywords by theme in one ad group and ads that are related to that theme. This helps you get higher click-through rates. Now you might think, why do I need a higher click-through rate? I'm just going to show my ad to as many people as possible, and since I'm only paying per click, I'll get the clicks that I need, and I'll pay only for them. Well, the problem is that Google only makes money if somebody clicks on your ad. So let's have an example. Google takes in a lot of factors when it decides how much it's going to charge you per click. There's quality score. It's basically a black box, a lot of those things. But let's say everything is equal and you have two competitors, one of which is bidding 10 cents and another one is bidding also 10 cents. But the first person has a 10% click-through rate. So if 100 people search for something, 10% click through, that's 10 people clicking. Google makes 10 cents per each click, meaning it makes $1 for each 100 people that search for the keyword. Now, the second competitor is also bidding 10 cents, but they have a 20% click-through rate. So if 100 people search, 20% click-through, that means 20 people click through the ad. Google made 20 times 10 cents, meaning $2 for that 100 people. And since Google only charges you just a bit more than you need to show up higher than your competitor, that second person isn't paying 20 cents per click. He's just paying a little more than half what the first person is bidding. So the first person is bidding, for example, 10 cents and paying 10 cents for each click. But the second person is only paying around 6 cents for each click and is showing up higher. That's why you want a higher click-through rate. Now, of course, that doesn't always apply in every situation. You don't want your click-through rate to be very, very high, but at the cost of having people that aren't actually interested in your product. You don't want to promise them something crazy that you're not delivering because you don't want to pay for clicks of people that won't be your customers. Sometimes you even want to filter people by getting a lower click-through rate if you can't do it with the keywords alone, because you don't want everybody clicking that won't be your customer. But in most cases, you do want a higher click-through rate. You don't want to pay more than your competitors because you have maybe good ads, but they're all bunched up together with lots of different keywords from different themes. So, like I said, you want to group your keywords by themes. If you have a clothing store, you want a separate ad group for the sneakers, a separate one for the jeans, and a separate one for the shirts. If you have a category that's very broad, for example, dresses, you might have cocktail dresses, you might have summer dresses. People searching for one most probably won't be interested in another. You, of course, create ad groups for each of those separately as well. Now that you have your groups, there's another thing to think about. Sometimes there might be a theme that you have, but there are different ways of describing it, synonyms, and those synonyms might behave very differently. Also, it might be hard to have both synonyms in your ad copy, or at least in the title at the same time. That's a situation when you might want to divide the group into two groups. So you'll have one synonym in one ad group and ads with that synonym in it, and another group will have that second synonym and ads with that synonym. Basically, what you want is, if somebody is searching for something, they want to see an ad that has that keyword they search for in the ad copy. They want to feel like this is exactly what they were searching for. Click on it. And what's more important also is they should be directed to a page about that. It won't help you if you have great themes, great keywords, great ads, but then the person lands on the main page of your website because they're not going to search again to find that category. They should land exactly on what they're interested in. Before I continue, let me take a minute to talk about our sponsor today. It's GetResponse. Go to internetadvertisingpodcast.com/GetResponse to find out about a free course about building your email list. Now, do you run an email newsletter for your business? It can really help you grow, catch lost sales, and make you more profitable. Try out the free GetResponse list building program. It's an email marketing course that covers everything you need to know to grow your list by up to 10,000 subscribers in as little as 90 days. If you already run a newsletter, I probably don't have to convince you of the benefits. However, in order to successfully run one, you need a good email marketing platform. I'd really like to recommend GetResponse. I've been using them since 2010, that's 9 years, and I'm very happy with their service. They have excellent deliverability, and they work hard to help you sort out any problems with email providers that might want to mark your marketing emails as spam. They also have very advanced marketing automation solutions and offer A/B testing, email analytics, and more. If you have a larger list, you can opt for GetResponse Enterprise. Then you get a service that's hosted on 2 separate IPs and can handle up to 1 million emails in 24 hours. So go to internetadvertisingpodcast.com/getresponse to find out more. When you set everything up, run your ads, you wait a while to get some clicks. I'm not talking about 1 or 2 clicks, but usually when you have 20, 30, 100 clicks, you can see which ad groups are performing, which ones are. It's time to optimize. Now, the first thing is you can see which ads are performing. It might be there are a couple of ads in an ad group. That's the way it should be. One of them is getting very high click-through rates. The other one isn't. If you have conversion data, that's even better because you might see that an ad that gets slightly less clicks is actually getting cheaper sales or cheaper leads. So look at the ads. But we're talking about keywords today. So what you can do is see which keywords are performing. Go into the ad groups. See which keywords are getting click-through rates. Some of them might not be getting any clicks or any impressions. If they're not getting any impressions, try raising the bids if that's something you're comfortable with. If the bid is too high and if somebody does click, you won't be making any money, definitely. Then it might be in keywords that's just too competitive and you'll have to give up on it for now. If, on the other hand, you were bidding very low and you're willing to pay more, try more, see if the keyword shows up in searches and if people click through it. Now, there might be some keywords where you get a lot of searches, but nobody clicks. This might be a keyword that just won't convert, or it might be a keyword that's too broad. Maybe it's just 1 or 2 words, and you might want to narrow it down, and some of those variations might perform better. What you can do is, at the top, you can click on search terms. You'll get a report of all the variations, all the keyword plus extra word that showed up when people were searching, and you'll find different variations. It might be that your keyword with an extra word is performing very well, while your keyword without that word isn't, or with a different word is performing poorly. That might be a signal to either pause the words that aren't performing, or if there are a couple of those well-performing keywords, you might take them and create a separate ad group with just those keywords and pause those variations or give them as negative matches in the original ad group. That way, you have a separate ad group with those very good keywords. You can even bid maybe a little more on those because they're driving sales or leads and have click-through rates. They're worth it. And on the other keywords, the more generic ones, you can bid a little less. With most campaigns, this process of finding keywords is ongoing. So once you have those ads running, you can, every couple of days, or if the campaign's been running for a while, once a week, look at the ad groups, see which keywords should be paused because they're not performing, which keywords might be performing very well and should be split out into separate ad groups. You can see the search terms that were actually used to find your ads and create new ad groups with those search terms. Or if you have broad keywords, Google might be suggesting different synonyms that you hadn't even thought of. And in that search report, you might see those search terms and then create an ad group specifically for that word with phrase matching or exact matching. It's usually good to have keywords with phrase and exact matching with higher bids, and those very broad keywords where Google might be going crazy and finding something that's relevant, or it might be something that's totally irrelevant. You want those to have slightly lower bids so you don't use up your budget on those iffy ad groups. I hope I've given you some ideas. And if you want to listen more about internet advertising, you can find us at internetadvertisingpodcast.com. You can also subscribe in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, or whichever application you're using to listen to podcasts. And please find me on Twitter at Gokmichael, that's GOCMICHAL, and tell me what else you'd like me to talk about. Till next time.